This is what you get when you spend $300,000. And this is what you get when you spend about $2,000. I am hellbent on rebuilding this 3-rotor with as little as possible. Now, the major expense I have is these semi-peripheral housings. That's, of course, going to allow me to make more horsepower, but I am reusing things that most people would be afraid to reuse. I want to show you that you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a rotary work. There's a method to my madness. I have wanted to learn how to rebuild my own 3-rotor. I got very lucky with the 4-rotor. The guys that built it originally have put such tight tolerances on it. It was easy to rebuild, and it was the perfect place for me to start. This, not so much. I am going to use the iron that I was sold for $1,900 that was cracked. It still is. We're going to fix that to some extent, and then get it ported and put it into the mix. We had it doweled, so we enlarged the holes here, here, and here to allow passage for more of these. Normally on a rotary engine, they're doweled here and at the bottom, which is awesome, but you can see we added 3 more. These are very, very tight. I'm impressed with this. As you've seen Dave on the channel, who's taught me a lot about rebuilding rotaries, machine these in such a strong way. You can see that there's the table shaking way more than these dowel pin holes are. We're going to be reusing all of the other irons. We're basically reusing everything. I could reuse the housings just to prove a point, but I really figured out, hey, I've got these semi-peripheral ones I wanted. Let's try them. But we're going to be reusing the E-shaft, all the bearings, all of the bolts, all of the rotors, and we'll go through that in a second because the rotors are the most beat up part, as well as all the apex seals, side seals, coolant seals. Well, not the coolant seals. Coolant seals are getting replaced. 90% of the engine is being reused. Right before all of this chaos, I was going to get a haircut, and I didn't. You know what's nice about that? I have hair to grow out and be absolutely moppish. But this video and my hairline is thanks to Keeps. Keeps has allowed me to keep the hair that I have. As you get older and as you go through crazy things in life like this, when you're over 35, 2 out of every 3 men will experience male pattern baldness. Thankfully, Keeps is focused on keeping the hair that you already have. They have a variety of solutions that are very affordable at just about $1 a day, and you can have all of that sent right to your home. So while you're focusing on living your life and rebuilding 3-rotors, Keeps is focusing on keeping your hair. Their process and their website is so straightforward, it makes it easy to understand what you can do to fight hair loss. Now that I've been using Keeps for 3 years, it's nice when your credit card expires, like in my case, Keeps is a nice reminder for that. So it is so hassle-free. I absolutely have loved it for the last couple of years. If you're interested in saving 50% off of your first order, go to keeps.com/RobDahm. That's Keeps, KEEPS.com/RobDahm. Let's get back to the 3-rotor adventures. How many rotary engines have I rebuilt? Well, 1. How many problems were there with that engine? Quite frankly, 0. I mean, if you really think about it, yeah, I was cleaning out crud, I was cleaning out aluminum, but that was more of like a fluke than a rotary engine failure. I need your guys' opinions. Remember, this is not the 4-rotor. That I am not looking for perfection, but if you notice anything that is just absolutely show-stopping about reusing any of these, let me know. Make fun of me. I don't. This is more for fun. This is more for the traditional old school approach to this channel. It's what makes me happy. There's a special place for this one. We're gonna see what I have, and then we're gonna try to fix the problems. So there it is right there. You'll see there's a marking, C, Charlie. Not K, but okay. This one says D for Dahm. And this one says 6. Leaking. This one says C for Charlie. So I have 2 C's and 1 D. And tons of oil on it. Those are the casting order of these rotors. And so, as you can imagine, C's are earlier in the series than D's, and as a result, you're affected by how much material is on the rotors. As they continue using the same cast, the more you use it, the more it affects tolerances. Not to say it's worse, but just you're going to have more material, I think, as they go on, or less. I can't remember which way it is. My goal is to try and salvage as much of this as possible, even though it's all wedged in there. Partially is because this rotor, I'm going to guess, hit the just grazed the wall. It's just shoved in there. Now, this one has an excuse. It's shoved in there and locked in. But like this one, that one's in there pretty deep. As a kind of random fact, these are PTS seals. Not that I have any affiliation, I paid for them. In worst case scenario, I do have the Super Sports that I'd used for years in there to begin with. So these are the ones that made all the power a long time ago. And as a lot of people claim, they chewed up the housings. Well, you know, I can't make too many comments because I didn't build the engine. JPR did, and they did a damn good job because you saw how many years of abuse from me it took. However that engine was built properly. I know PB Blaster's a guaranteed, whatever you want to call it, penetrator. Seafoam, kind of same thing, really. And then WD-40, also kind of similar. I feel like, personally, I feel like PB Blaster is going to be the king at this because that's what its job is to do, at least when I've used it. And penetrating oil does take time to work its magic. Do the same thing with this one. Seafoam. There's like a cult around this stuff. It doesn't look like PB Blaster. Same kind of like that weird looking oil feel to it. They all have that same kind of feel. I'm just curious. And then finally, the Seafoam seems more like WD-40. These are just naturally coming back to life. The rear rotor is the one that's going to take the most work because it's, oh, I see. Man, that one's like pushed all the way in. This is bad. I'm going to say that all these springs are pretty trash. I do have all the springs out of the 4-rotor from before that were fine. I just didn't want to put it on my perfect engine. There we go. Okay. This one right here is gonna be the hardest corner. It's like flat. Flop over to the other side. I do want to point out, if you guys don't remember from the channel, this engine went very lean repeatedly, absolutely repeatedly, and it was pushed over and over again. Some mass chaos. So I got my handy little pick out, and what I'm gonna do is just suggest to this piece, I don't have much to lose, this rotor is pretty rough, but I'm gonna try and get under it because there should be some spring room. Yeah, there we go. And just, please, here, just suggest it to kind of take in the penetrating oil. Do it on both sides. That one's more ready to go. I'm not telling it what to do, I'm suggesting. That one's pretty hosed. Really fascinating just how bad some of these got. And kind of just gently suggest some of these corner seals to turn like that. And I'm using no force on it. Using it like that, and then there we go. Should be a little spring. Yeah. She's cooperating. I'm gonna try to get to this corner. Let's take off the control rings. They've seen some shit. There's tons of grape juice in here still. Hey, there you are. Just bringing it up. Yeah. There we go. I'd be a little bit more harsh on this one because it's broken in half. What? Okay, well, it's easy to break it. This isn't meant to be an endorsement for or against anything, but anecdotally, the Seafoam is working least effective. Of course, that's meant to be put into a running engine, so if it started tearing apart all of your oil, that would be a really bad thing. But I'm kind of surprised that WD-40 did so well. Of course, the PB Blaster is doing a pretty damn good job. I've got a handful of ones that are just starting to respond. while I was cataloging everything, these are the, well, those are the two baby Apex Seal springs. But the bigger ones caught my attention. Look at that. They're different sizes. And so I'm like, okay, let's look at the side profile. This one's bent. Okay, so this one's the problem. Then I went over to known good ones, and the story gets even weirder. The bent one is the fine one, lengthwise. So it's trashed, and this one snapped. It's missing a part of it somewhere. Which, hey, this is the third rotor. She took the most damage, but wow. Pause for a second. I'm editing the video right now, and I just had a Sherlock Holmes moment. Okay, it's 4 in the morning, and I'm just geeking out right now. I'm editing that part of the video, and I realized something. It's rotor 3. Cool, I've made that discovery. I never put it all together. I'm sure some of you already watching it are already probably like, Rob, put it all together. 2 weeks later, I figured it out. That's that mark, right? I looked, and sure enough, one of the apex seals, one of the springs, were chunked off. The other one had bent. Okay, so one of them was flattened, one of them was shorter than the others. The shortened one was a flattened one at some point. The rotor experienced so much detonation, so much energy, that it flattened the spring that goes behind the apex seal. Once it's flattened and the apex seal comes back out, that spring can no longer hook into its little groove. So now it's free to come out here. We've got the wall of this iron holding it back in until the intake port. As soon as the intake port's out, now this is open. It's capable of being shoved outward. It pops out and gets cleaved by the intake port. That's that. That's that mark right there that I ground down. So it swipes past it, crushes that chunk of the apex seal spring right there, takes it off. Then the rotor comes by and swipes against it and chunks it perfectly. So that explains exactly what piece of metal went right into there. You know, I don't run an air filter, but there's nothing in the turbo, nothing in the inlet, nothing in the compressor. So it had to be inside the system, and I could not figure out what could be so square and cause that problem. Okay, back to the video. Still letting these things percolate. We got one full front rotor, almost second rotor, just accounting for everything. A really gratifying thing, getting this unstuck, as long as there's no physical binding. There we go. The damn GoPro battery died while I was in the zone, and so what you see here is quite a bit of progress, about an hour of progress. I did a couple of funny things, and I'm not endorsing this or anything like that, but I used this to get the corner seals out, the ones that were stuck. I wedged it in like that, and then just spun it, and it broke them free. I came up with a trick to get side seals out, and what I did was basically, as it was in the rotor and I would pop a corner out, I would simply take a chunk, I have a chunk of one, underneath it and push down and then move the chunk further and further down and just pushing, tapping like this. Tapping, it came through. Finally, I feel like I did recover this rotor. This is terrifying, but I did it. First step was I broke it all the way down to about here and here. It snapped off. Then I took a chunk of the side seal, took it in pliers and cut it on an angle. So I had the side seal going under there as a wedge and then tapping it with a hammer, and it popped the last bit of both sides out. And then I've just been sanding it with 800 grit, double folded inside of there to flatten it completely in. So it's just, it works. I feel like all of this is capable of being recovered. Okay, gonna remember which one's which. Third one's easy to remember. I'm not a huge fan of the simple green stuff. Not really impressed, but it works better than nothing, I guess. Giving them a really basic bath right now. You can really see the detonation on this one. Right there. And you can see the detonation on this one, right there. Oh my God, it's detonated on both sides. With all the rotors prepped, it was time to start putting together the engine, and I had to scramble to get parts that were either completely broken or salvaged for the 4-rotor, or 2-rotor, or all the other things. So I went over to Racing Beat, which is an iconic classic company, and I picked up one of their kind of aftermarket high-pressure oil pressure regulators. That goes on the inside of the engine. You can't undo that once the engine's all together and the oil pan's on. Normally, people take the stock one and then they beat it in with a hammer. I decided to support a company that has been in business for a long time. They also sold me 3 brand new side seals. One was completely destroyed, one I had used as a pick, and a third one broke off into pieces. Finally, I am an idiot and somehow lost one of the little baby triangle pizza pieces for one of the 2-piece Apex seals. So Frizz from Lucky 7, thank you very much. You've been a wonderful help, and he donated that to the cause. We're pretty close to getting this thing assembled, so we got about 2 days before that happens. For those of you guys looking for an outro, it's kind of fun to not have one, but let me show you this.